Chapter 5240. Choosing the next head of the family was definitely a serious matter. No matter what, Bai Li Fan would not joke about this matter. However, in just half a day, Bai Li Fan had made such a shocking result. How could they not be shocked? The head of the Bai Li family is actually going to give the position of the head of the family to Hong Zhuang. Isn't this too unbelievable? Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. Previously, they did not hear this news from Bai Li Hongzhuang. When Di Beichen first heard this news, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down. When Hong Zhuang mentioned this matter in the past, he knew that Hong Zhuang had always felt guilty about this and wanted to find an opportunity to make up for it. In the past, she thought that the Bai Li family had disappeared. Now that she had the opportunity to become the head of the Bai Li family again, it would make up for her regret. After all, she used to be the head of the Bai Li family. However, due to an accident, she disappeared along with the family's inheritance. Even though so many years had passed and many things had changed, this was still her home. Everyone here was her family. The head of the Bai Li family must have his own thoughts. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Seeing Di Beichen's calm expression, a trace of surprise flashed across Di Xiaofeng's eyes. It seemed that his brother had already guessed it. Bai Li Yunyan also did not dare to believe it at first. However, when she recalled the recording crystal that the head of the family mentioned previously, she already had some guesses in her mind. Perhaps Bai Li Hongzhuang was really the person that was mentioned in the recording crystal. She held the family's inheritance in her hands and carried the hope of the family to become stronger. It was because of this that the head of the family decided to give the position of the head of the family to her. If this was really the case, then she agreed. Moreover, she also liked Bai Li Hongzhuang very much. Shengguan Yingying, Wen Ziren, Mo Yinjue, Bai Li Yan Che, and Linger all looked at each other. They had no idea what was going on. However, no matter how one looked at it, this did not seem to be a bad thing. Ziren, if Hong Zhuang really becomes the head of the Bai Li family, then Xiao Sou and the others won't have the right to laugh at Hong Zhuang for coming from the underworld, right? When Ziren nodded slightly, a smile appearing between his brows. That's right, they've always said that Hong Zhuang's status is not good enough for Beichen, but with this layer of status, this kind of saying is not justified. That's great. Shengguan Yingying's eyes sparkled. Previously, when everyone had brought up this point, even though Hong Zhuang had appeared extremely calm, Shengguan Yingying knew that Hong Zhuang would not feel good about it. This was like a soft spot that had been constantly poked at but could not be refuted. However, with this layer of status, even if there was still a gap in the power of the two families, it would definitely be much smaller than before. Compared to Shengguan Yingying and the others who were overjoyed, the elders and disciples of the Bai Li family could not accept this at all. They only thought that Bai Li Fan must have gone mad to make such an incomprehensible decision. Head of the family, we cannot accept this decision. The great elder was the first to step out. His elderly face was filled with intense dissatisfaction. How can the Bai Li family hand over the position of the head of the family to someone else? Are you muddle-headed? As he was too angry, the great elder's words were not polite at all. Chapter 5241. Bai Li Fan was not surprised by the elder's opposition. This situation was within his expectations. He knew that his decision was crazy, but he was sure that his judgment was correct. I have already made my decision and I will not change it. Bai Li Fan's expression was serious and solemn. Elders, I will explain the specific reason to you later. Patriarch, did they force you to do this? The first elder's eyes were filled with worry and anger. He had always known the family head's character. If there was no reason, the family head would never do such a thing. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of any other possibility other than this one. As soon as he said this, the Bai Li family looked at Bai Li Hongzhuang's group with unkind eyes. Young Master D, Miss Bai Li, we have treated you as our honored guests. How can you bully us just because you have a strong family? That's right. Even if our clan's strength is not a match for the D clan, we will definitely not give up our entire clan just like that. The elders' attitudes changed almost instantly. They knew how much Bai Li Fan cared about the family. For Bai Li Fan to make such a decision, Bai Li Hongzhuang and the others must have done something very overboard. Seeing this, Sheng Guaningying could not help but frown. Her face was filled with dissatisfaction. What nonsense are you talking about? When did we bully you? They couldn't accept being labeled with such a big label for no reason. Seeing this, Bai Li Hongzhuang turned to look at Sheng Guaningying. Leave this matter to family head Bai Li. Since this was Bai Li Fan's decision, she believed that Bai Li Fan had the ability to solve it. Hearing this, Sheng Guaningying's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She immediately suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. At this moment, another figure walked into the hall. Seeing this person, Bai Li Yunyan's eyes were filled with surprise and nervousness. Bai Li Tianheng is here. Bai Li Tianheng. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and asked silently. Bai Li Tianheng is the son of the patriarch. Although the patriarch has yet to appoint a young master, everyone knows that the position of young master belongs to him. Previously, when Bai Li Tianheng was training outside, he obtained quite a lot of opportunities. During this period of time, he has been in seclusion, so he did not make it to the immortal cloud mystic realm. However, from his aura, his strength has improved greatly. Bai Li Yunyan's heart was in a mess. She didn't want to see the conflict between the two sides because of this matter. In fact, even though she had roughly guessed the reason, she never thought that the master would have such great courage to make such a decision. I see. Di Xiaofeng and the others immediately understood. They had indeed never seen this person before. However, from the aura he exuded, his strength was indeed stronger than the Bai Li family's disciple who had entered the immortal cloud's secret realm. Bai Li Tianheng was not in a good mood to begin with. All along, the Bai Li family had rarely obtained a place to enter the immortal cloud mystic realm. Even though they did not miss out on every alchemy competition, in reality, it was all about participating. Therefore, he had never taken this matter to heart. Chapter 52-42. However, Bai Li Tianheng was in the middle of his closed-door cultivation and he had previously said that he could not be disturbed. Hence, even though Bai Li Fan felt that it was a pity to miss this opportunity, he did not disturb him. After all, if he made a mistake during this important period of cultivation, he would suffer from qi deviation. Hence, when Bai Li Tianheng came out of his closed-door cultivation and heard the news, he almost blacked out and fainted. Because this matter was too depressing, Bai Li Tianheng did not come out to meet anyone and continued his closed-door cultivation. As the person most likely to inherit the position of the master of the household, no matter what, his cultivation could not be caught up by others. Today, he was also cultivating but was suddenly disturbed by a hurried voice. Initially, he was extremely unhappy, but when he heard that his father wanted to hand over the position of the master of the household to an outsider, he could no longer remain calm. This was simply too unacceptable. The eyes of Bai Li Hongzhuang and the others also fell on Bai Li Tianheng's body. Bai Li Yunyan's voice was not small, and they all heard it clearly. Wife, I'm afraid that Bai Li Tianheng will not agree so easily. Di Baichen's lips curled into a devilish smile and his calm face did not show any signs of worry. Naturally, I will settle my son's problem. Bai Li Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. She was not determined to obtain the position of the master of the household. However, Bai Li Fan had always insisted on this because this was the news he had obtained from the recording crystal. Therefore, she didn't refuse. After all, it wasn't a bad thing to learn about the current situation of the 100 Lane clan through this matter. Tianheng, you're here. Seeing Bai Li Tianheng's appearance, Bai Li Fan's stern face relaxed for a moment. Father, how could you make such a decision? Bailey Tianheng did not care about anything else and went straight to the point. This was simply infuriating. I naturally have my reasons for doing this. Master, Tianheng is your son. In the entire family, only he is qualified to become the young master. That's right. In our hearts, Tianheng is already the young master. You can't make such a foolish decision. If the position of the master of the household is really handed over to Bailey Hongzhuang, what will happen to Tianheng? Following Bailey Tianheng's appearance, the group of elders immediately found a breakthrough. Seeing so many elders supporting him, Bailey Tianheng's heart calmed down. He turned his head and his gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although he had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang before, he had a rough idea of her from the description of the servants. Hence, with just a glance, he could tell who was Bailey Hongzhuang, of course, of the Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though his heart, Bailey Tianheng of Bailey of course, Bailey of the household. What a peerless of a beauty. Of a lotus flower bloom 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 Bailey ye Bailey, Bailey, Bailey Bailey Bailey, Bailey, Bailey. Bailey. Of Bailey. How could you make my father make such an unreasonable decision? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bailey Tianheng indifferently. She did not seem to feel his anger at all. There was a stark contrast between the two. I did not do anything. This is your father's decision. That's impossible. Chapter 52-43. Tianheng, don't be rash. Bailey Fan stood out when he saw that everyone was pointing their spears at Bailey Hongzhuang. If anyone has any questions, ask me. Don't point your spears at Hongzhuang. Everyone's gaze changed when they heard the change in the way Bailey Fan addressed her. They couldn't understand when the relationship between the master and Bailey Hongzhuang had become so close. Father, are you confused? How can you hand the family over to an outsider? Bailey Tianheng felt that he was about to go crazy. His father was acting too strangely today. He didn't seem like the person he usually was. Bailey Hongzhuang is a member of my family. Following Bailey Fan's words, the originally noisy discussion hall fell silent for a moment. Everyone looked at Bailey Fan and Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. How did Bailey Hongzhuang become a member of their family? This was something they had never heard of before. The great elder and the second elder glanced at each other. Originally, they didn't understand why the patriarch would suddenly do such a thing. But after a while, they suddenly understood. Could it be? Bailey Hongzhuang was actually the master's illegitimate daughter. Did she come back this time to acknowledge her ancestors? If this was really the case, then everything could be explained. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was now the young madam of the D family. If she became the master of the Bailey family, it would be of great help to the family. It wasn't just the two elders. Bailey Tianheng and the rest of the young disciples had the same thought in their minds. Because, other than this reason, they couldn't think of any other reason. At that moment, Bailey Tianheng realized that everyone was looking at him with sympathy. This feeling was enough to make him die of shame and anger. Father, how could you do such a thing? Bailey Fan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone had finally quietened down. However, he didn't expect to hear Bailey Tianheng's bitter words. He was puzzled. Tianheng, Hongzhuang is really a member of my Bailey family. Master, what you did was really wrong. The great elder sighed. He didn't expect the master to do such a thing. What did I do wrong? Bailey Fan looked at everyone in confusion. The great elder saw that Bailey Fan still wanted to continue hiding it. He couldn't help but glance at him and Bailey Hongzhuang with a strange expression. After pondering for a moment, Bailey Fan suddenly understood what he meant, and his expression suddenly became incomparably strange. What nonsense are you all guessing? Bailey Fan was also angry. These guys actually thought of such a messy thing. Hongzhuang's ancestors are members of my family. However, for some reason, they ended up in the lower realm. Now, she has my family's long-lost cultivation method in her hands. Following Bai Li Fan's words, everyone was stunned. A series of gasps could be heard. They were filled with shock and disbelief. Did I hear wrongly? Master said that Bai Li Hongzhuang has the family's inheritance in her hands. I heard that our family's cultivation method was originally extremely powerful. However, it has been lost for many years. If it wasn't lost, our family would definitely be stronger than it is now. Chapter 52-44. Bai Li Tianheng's expression suddenly froze. The original shame and pain turned into confusion in an instant. He wondered if he had heard wrongly. Bai Li Hongzhuang was actually a member of the Bai Li family, and it was not like what he had thought. The sudden change really made him unable to react. However, compared to his previous guess, this situation was undoubtedly much easier for him to accept. Sheng Guanyin and the others all looked at Bai Li Hongzhuang in shock. It was not until this moment that they completely understood the real reason. Bai Li Fan looked at the elders who collectively fell into a daze. He looked apologetically at Bai Li Hongzhuang and the others and said, "Hongzhuang, I'm afraid this matter needs to be discussed internally first." "Why don't I?" Bai Li Hongzhuang immediately understood Bai Li Fan's meaning. Presumably, Bai Li Fan originally wanted to directly announce the result to everyone and then explain. However, because everyone's reaction was too intense, they did not even give him a chance to explain. Helplessly, he could only make such a decision. "In that case, we'll leave first." Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally understood. Thinking that Bai Li Fan and the others actually had such exaggerated thoughts in their minds, they also thought that it was indeed necessary for Bai Li Fan to properly explain this matter to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. It was not until they left the meeting hall that Sheng Guanyin finally asked a bellyful of questions. "Hongzhuang, what's going on? You actually have the inheritance of the Bai Li family." Even if they already knew that Hongzhuang and the Bai Li family were of the same origin, they never thought that she actually had the inheritance of the Bai Li family in her hands. This was extremely amazing. Bai Li Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Yes, this was passed down by my ancestors." "No wonder you're so powerful." Sheng Guanyin immediately understood, "So you've been cultivating the inheritance of the upper realm all this time." Following Sheng Guanying's words, Ziren also came to a realization, "Yes, I finally found the reason why you're so abnormal." Looking at the two of them who looked as if they had discovered a new world, Bai Li Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Although she did not cultivate the cultivation method of the Bai Li family, the demon summoning scripture was obviously not an ordinary cultivation method. This was indeed the reason why her cultivation speed was faster. "Hongzhuang, I see that Bai Li Tianheng is extremely dissatisfied with this matter. Do you think that Bai Li family's head can convince everyone?" There was a trace of worry in Mo Yinjue's deep eyes. He had seen the situation clearly just now. Other than Bai Li Fan, no one else supported Bai Li Hongzhuang. Even if Bai Li Hongzhuang's family's family inheritance, they would not. In fact, no matter from which point of view, this was the Bai Li family. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled, "This will depend on Bai Li family's ability. However, even if everyone opposes it, I don't care. The position of the family's head was forced upon me by Bai Li family's head. I don't have any plans to obtain it." Now, it had already been 1,000 years. Even if they were still in the same family, it was not the same as before. If she was allowed to lead the Bai Li family again, she would not refuse. However, if everyone was unwilling, she would not take it to heart. As long as the Bai Li family's inheritance could be passed down, that would be the happiest thing for her. Chapter 52-45. From the very beginning, they had been most worried about Bai Li Hongzhuang's emotions. Since she had thought things through, everyone was relieved. Regardless of the outcome, it did not matter. Compared to the calm and indifferent atmosphere of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the Bailey family's meeting hall was in full swing at the moment. Patriarch, what's going on? The great elder stared anxiously at Bai Li Fan. He now knew that there must be an extremely important reason for the master's actions. Hence, he was eager to know the real reason. It was not just the great elder. All the other elders and disciples of the Bailey family fell silent as they stared at Bai Li Fan, eager to hear his explanation. Looking at the anxious looks on everyone's faces, Bai Li Fan sighed and said, "We'll have to start from the inheritance that Yun Yan had obtained in the Divine Cloud's secret realm." Inheritance? Bailey Tianheng was stunned. He had only just come out of his closed-door cultivation today and did not know that Bailey Yunyan had obtained the inheritance in the Divine Cloud's secret realm. Bailey Yunyan stood calmly on the spot as if she had not noticed the complicated and curious gazes of the crowd. Then, Bailey Fan told him the whole story from beginning to end. Previously, he had not mentioned this matter because he had not found the woman who could bring hope to the family as mentioned in the recording crystal. Once this news got out, no one knew if someone would come forward to impersonate her. However, now that he had confirmed that this person was Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no need for him to continue hiding it. What? How could such a thing have happened? The first elder's face was filled with shock. This situation was simply too unbelievable. Master, what you've said is true. Bailey Yunyan finally spoke. Furthermore, before we entered the Divine Cloud's secret realm, Hongzhuang had asked me to check the genealogy. This is definitely not a coincidence nor was it purposely arranged. Bailey Tianheng, who was originally thinking of stopping his father's actions no matter what, fell into silence at this moment. If it was the old ancestors' prophecy, they indeed had no reason to refuse. Patriarch, have you confirmed this matter? The second elder's face was full of hesitation and worry. If it's wrong, it'll be terrible. I've already confirmed it. Bai Li Fan looked serious. Needless to say, I'm sure you can figure it out. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally the young mistress of the Di family. After what happened in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, Di Baichen's status as the young master of the Di family would not change. Do you think she needs to tell such a lie? As soon as he said this, the second elder immediately shut his mouth. Indeed, no matter how one looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang had no reason to do so. Moreover, the family's lost cultivation method was really in her hands. Just this point alone was enough to prove a lot of things. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This sudden result was really hard for them to accept. However, after understanding the real reason, they could not refute it. However, from now on, Bailey Hongzhuang would become their new patriarch. It was really hard for them to get used to it. Now, does anyone have any objections to my decision? Everyone fell silent. This was the old ancestors' prophecy. Who could say no? Chapter 52-46. After everyone left, Bai Li Fan looked at Bailey Tianheng, who was left alone. Tianheng, I know it's hard for you to accept this. I've wronged you. Bai Li Fan's eyes were apologetic. Before this, he also believed that Bailey Tianheng would be the next young master. It was not only because he was his son, but also because he was outstanding in all aspects. No one would object to letting him succeed the position of patriarch. However, plans could not keep up with changes. No one expected such a thing to happen. Compared to the entire family's future, he could only choose to wrong his son. Bailey Tianheng's expression was complicated. Too many things had happened today. It was hard for him to accept. However, he was not an unreasonable person. He knew that his father must have considered many aspects before making such a decision. Father, I know your decision is not wrong. It's just that I need some time. Bailey Tianheng forced a smile. The psychological gap was too big. Even if he tried his best to look past it, he still felt that it was difficult to do so. At least, he still could not do it in a short period of time. Hearing Bailey Tianheng's words, Bai Li Fan felt even more guilty. If Bailey Tianheng showed a lot of dissatisfaction or lost his temper, he would feel better. However, seeing that his son was so sensible, his feelings were even more complicated. All along, Bailey Tianheng was the son he was proud of. He had never disappointed him. But now, he had disappointed Bailey Tianheng. Bailey Tianheng did not stay for long. Too many things had happened so suddenly. He needed to calm down. Bai Li Fan did not force him to stay. He believed that Bailey Tianheng would understand everything. Bailey Yunyan immediately informed Bailey Hongzhuang after the result was out. Hearing the result, everyone sighed in their hearts. Patriarch Bailey is really amazing. He actually convinced everyone. Ziren sighed. Won't Bailey Tianheng feel that it's unfair? According to his judgment, it would be hard for anyone to accept that the cooked duck flew away just like that. Moreover, judging from Bailey Tianheng's behavior earlier, he simply couldn't wait to chase them out. Actually, Tianheng has always been a very reasonable person. Today, he suddenly heard this news, so his behavior was a little extreme. But after he understood the real situation, he accepted it, but he must have felt uncomfortable in his heart. Bailey Yunyan explained with a smile. One must know that Bailey Tianheng had always been highly sought after in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This Bailey Tianheng actually didn't cause any trouble. No. Bailey Yunyan's voice was firm. Hongzhuang, after you spend more time with him, you will know that he is actually a very good person. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. A strange look flashed in her eyes, but her face revealed a smile like a spring breeze. That's good. Tisk tsk, I didn't expect that there would be 3 young lords in our group. That's really amazing. Ziren sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang had also become the patriarch. Yes, only the 3 of us are like duckweeds without anyone to rely on. Shangguan Yingying sighed. You husband and wife don't drag me into this. Mo Yinjue quietly said. Chapter 52-47. Following Bai Li Fan's decision, the members of the Bailey family began to accept the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had become their family head. However, even though everyone already knew the reason behind this, they still found it hard to accept. This was because they simply did not understand the personality of this family head. They also did not know what kind of changes would occur in the family after she had become the family head. Furthermore, during this period of time, there had been many rumors about Bailey Hongzhuang and many of them had been added to her mysterious aura. She had clearly come from a lower realm but had managed to secure her position as the young madam of the D family. Not only was her pill refining skills outstanding, her medical skills were also top-notch. In everyone's opinion, this was something that was impossible. However, all of these things had happened to her alone. Of course, everyone understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had enough confidence to become the family head due to her various identities. Therefore, everyone was most concerned about Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament. In the entire family, the ones who understood Bailey Hongzhuang the most were Bailey Yunyan and Bailey Shi. In an instant, the residence of the 2 had become the most lively place in the family. Both Bailey Yunyan and Bailey Shi were full of goodwill towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Naturally, they would do their best to speak well of her when they were explaining things. On the 3rd day, Bailey Hongzhuang accepted Bai Li Fan's family head succession ceremony. This was a major event that attracted the attention of the entire Bailey family. Bai Li Fan handed the family head seal to Bailey Hongzhuang and announced to the crowd below the high platform, from today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang is the family head of the Bailey family. Greetings, family head. The members of the Bailey family all bowed. They no longer treated Bailey Hongzhuang as an equal or even a junior. From today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang was the family head that they respected the most. On the high platform, a white figure stood proudly. The golden sunlight shone on her body, making her already otherworldly figure appear even more ethereal and noble. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face was calm and serious. Looking at the dense crowd below the stage, the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile. From today onwards, I am the head of the family. Now, I have something to announce. Many curious and doubtful gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Of course, some of the young disciples who were not convinced were even more dissatisfied. She's just relying on the lost inheritance of her family to obtain the position of the head of the family. She's really going too far. She's already the head of the family. It's only natural that she has something to announce. It's not that I have a problem with it. I just feel indignant on Tianheng's behalf. Who would be able to accept the sudden appearance of such an inexplicable character to snatch his position as young master? Hearing the discussion of the people beside him, Bailey Tianheng couldn't help but frown and berate. What nonsense are you talking about? The family head is Bailey Hongzhuang. If you continue to be so disrespectful to the family head, you'll be punished. The expressions of the three people beside him instantly changed. They lowered their heads and no longer said a word. Bailey Tianheng's feelings were extremely complicated. However, no matter how difficult it was to accept this, he would not make things difficult for his father. He would support his father's decision. As long as it was a decision that would benefit the family, he would support it. His father was even willing to hand over the position of the family head. What more him? Chapter 52-48. Bailey Fan and the elders all stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. They only wanted to know what Bailey Hongzhuang would announce on the first day of the succession. In fact, even if Bailey Fan handed the position of family head to Bailey Hongzhuang according to the ancestors' prophecy, he still had some concerns in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was indeed amazing, but strength and becoming the family head were two different things. Many people were extremely outstanding, but they couldn't become a good family head. At the same time, some people's strength might not be the most outstanding in the family, but their breadth of mind, temperament, and way of handling things made them a good family head. At least, they still didn't know Bailey Hongzhuang's ability in this area for the time being. Therefore, what Bailey Hongzhuang was going to announce at this moment was also something they were very concerned about. I know that everyone has some complaints about me inheriting the position of family head, but whether you support or oppose it, I have already become the family head, so I hope that everyone can recognize this fact. Her cold voice was domineering and domineering. Her ink-black phoenix eyes sized up the people below the stage. Her sharp and penetrating gaze seemed to be able to see through people's hearts, causing people to unconsciously lower their heads, not daring to meet her gaze. Hongzhuang is really domineering. Just one look and everyone doesn't dare to look at her. Sheng Guaningying's eyes were filled with amazement. She had always known about Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, but she didn't know that she had such a domineering and fierce side. Logically speaking, even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the Bailey family were of the same origin, she was still an outsider and didn't have anyone's support here. If it were her, it would be good if she didn't feel guilty in this situation. However, Hongzhuang was not only full of confidence, she could even intimidate everyone below the stage as soon as she opened her mouth. Di Xiaofeng's heart was also filled with amazement, but it quickly turned into admiration. No wonder she was Bailey Hongzhuang. She was so domineering. The future wife of the head of the Di family should be like this. The eyes of Bailey Fan and the others lit up when they saw this. Even if it was just a few words, it was already enough to prove that she had the means to intimidate everyone. As the head of the family, I will do my best to make the family stronger. However, I haven't lived here all these years, so I don't know much about the family. Therefore, I made a decision. Bailey Fan will be the second patriarch, and Bailey Tianheng will be the young patriarch. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone who had their heads lowered raised their heads in shock. They stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang, wondering if they had heard wrongly. Bai Li Fan and Bailey Hongzhuang's faces were also filled with disbelief. None of them thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually make such a decision. Head of the family. Bai Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her hand slightly and stopped him. In the future, I won't be staying in the family all the time. The family's matters will be handed over to you all. I believe that the Bailey family will become stronger and stronger. If Bailey Hongzhuang's intimidating words made everyone a little dissatisfied, then after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's decision, their thoughts completely changed. Chapter 52-49. Bailey Tianheng's heart continued to rise and fall. This sudden change really made him feel that it was hard to accept. First, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared and completely cut off his hopes of becoming the patriarch. Just as he helplessly accepted it, this sudden change made him feel incomparably shocked. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would make such a decision. Thinking back to all his previous dissatisfaction, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's open and aboveboard manner, all of it became a joke. He was really gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. His father's judgment was right. Bailey Hongzhuang had no reason to fight for it. From the beginning to the end, they were just overthinking. When Di Xiaofeng and the others heard Bailey Hongzhuang's decision, they were also extremely surprised. Di Xiaofeng subconsciously looked at Di Beichen, but found that Di Beichen's expression was calm, as if he had already expected this. Turning his eyes, Di Xiaofeng found that Mo Yinjue also had a calm expression. Obviously, this situation was not beyond his expectations. When he saw that Sheng Guaningying and Wen Ziren also had a look of astonishment, his mood calmed down a little. Fortunately, he was not the only one who felt this way. The group of elders stared blankly at this scene. This sudden change made them feel too surprised, but more than that, they were pleasantly surprised. In this way, the problem they were worried about before could be completely solved. They no longer had to worry about anything. Applause suddenly burst out. From the first person to the entire audience applauding, everyone's faces were filled with joyful smiles. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang walked down the high platform and walked to Di Beichen's side. Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly. This was a decision she had made herself, and she had not told anyone before. When she raised her head, she found that Di Beichen's deep black eyes were like a warm ocean. A spring breeze-like smile bloomed on his face. Wife, you did very well. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips also raised into a faint smile. The spring breeze seemed to blow into her heart, making her feel sweet. Yes, no matter what decision she made, Beichen would always support her. In the next 2 days, Bailey Hongzhuang directly copied the cultivation method and martial technique and handed it to Bai Li Fan. At the same time, Bai Li Fan also told Bailey Hongzhuang the family's current situation in detail. Even though most of the matters were left to them to handle, Bailey Hongzhuang was still the head of the family after all. In the end, she still had to understand these matters better. Originally, everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's first time coming into contact with these family matters and that it would be a very slow process for her to grasp them through a comprehensive study. However, they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so smart. With just a few casual pointers, she had already understood everything. Bailey Hongzhuang was the head of the family in her previous life, so she was very familiar with these matters. As long as she had a rough understanding of the data, she would be able to make a relative judgment of the situation. During this process, the group of elders began to agree more and more with Bai Li Fan's previous actions. This was simply too wise. After Bai Li Fan and the other elders looked at the cultivation method written by Bailey Hongzhuang, they immediately knew that this was their family's original inheritance. Chapter 52-50. This was because Bai Li Fan and the other elders of the family had been practicing other techniques for many years. Not only would it not benefit them to change their techniques, it might even affect their cultivation. Therefore, they could only choose to give up. However, there was still a possibility for the younger generation of cultivators to change their techniques. Therefore, Baili Hongzhuang gathered a group of young disciples led by Baili Tianheng and let them try to cultivate. However, even if it was the family's technique, it was not something that anyone could cultivate. Back then, only a small number of people in the Baili family were able to cultivate. Therefore, everyone had the idea of giving it a try. If they were able to cultivate it successfully, it would undoubtedly be the best. In the process of trying, there were naturally many cultivators who failed. However, there were also some who succeeded. Among the successful cultivators were Baili Tianheng, Baili Yunyan, and Baili Shi. Everyone did not find it strange that Baili Tianheng and Baili Yunyan had such talent. However, when they found out that Baili Shi also had such talent, they were extremely surprised. Not only them, even Baili Shi found it hard to believe when she found out. After all, her cultivation talent was not as good as Baili Yunyan's. Immediately after, Baili Yunyan and the others discovered that ever since they were able to cultivate the family's technique, their status in the family had changed. This was because Baili Hongzhuang and the others knew how powerful the family's technique was. Even if there was a delay during the conversion, as long as they completely changed, their cultivation speed would catch up. In addition, when the alchemists and doctors of the Baili family came to ask for advice, Baili Hongzhuang did not reject them. Instead, she did her best to guide them. In an instant, everyone could feel Baili Hongzhuang's sincerity towards the family. She really wanted to make the Baili family stronger. Regarding this point, not to mention the group of young disciples, even the various elders were somewhat unable to understand somewhat. No matter what, everyone had their own selfish motives. However, Baili Hongzhuang did not ask for anything in return. This made them sigh. Within a short period of time, the children of the Baili family had completely changed their opinion of Baili Hongzhuang, from their initial rejection to their support. The appearance of Baili Hongzhuang allowed them to see the dawn of the family's strength. What's more, their family head was the young mistress of the Di family, which meant that they were bound to the Di family. From the way Di Beichen treated Baili Hongzhuang so seriously, the Di family would definitely take care of Baili Hongzhuang in the future. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but feel excited. This was a great thing. On this day, Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Xiaolong finally entered the Baili family. At this moment, the two of them were very angry. They had already arrived near the Baili family 2 days ago, but because they had never been here before, it took them a long time to find it. During this process, they also tried to find the Baili family, but there was no response from the beginning to the end. Thinking that the time of the poison's attack was getting closer and closer, the two of them did not dare to give up. They could only walk around in circles. Recently, someone from the Baili family finally came to pick them up. Most importantly, the Baili family's cultivators appeared at the place where they had been wandering for the past 2 days. Chapter 52-51. Nangong Xiaolong felt his blood boil. A mere Baili family actually dared to treat them like this. He didn't need to think to know that the Baili family was doing this on purpose. They were toying with them, making them walk around in circles. Di Beichen and the others were probably laughing at them. Nangong Yuqing's complexion was also extremely ugly. Even though he had already guessed that this matter wouldn't be resolved so easily, he didn't expect to be rejected at the door just now. This display of strength was really too much. If Baili Hongzhuang knew about this, she would feel that she had wronged them. They didn't have such an intention at all. It was just that they were too busy these past 2 days. On one hand, Baili Hongzhuang was inheriting the family head position. On the other hand, they spent a lot of effort on the family's inheritance, so they didn't pay too much attention to the outside world. Compared to the family's matters, Nangong Xiaolong was an insignificant person that they didn't pay attention to. Xiaolong, Di Xiaofeng and the others aren't easy to deal with. I'm afraid this matter won't be over easily. Are you really confident? Nangong Yuqing's expression sank. This time, the two of them came alone. In fact, he was a bit worried. If Di Xiaofeng and the others still didn't agree after Nangong Xiaolong apologized, then the two of them really couldn't find any other way. Compared to Nangong Yuqing's worry, Nangong Xiaolong was a lot calmer. He waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, Bailey Shi is dead set on me. You didn't see her pestering me when I was about to leave. If you saw it, then you wouldn't be worried." Seeing Nangong Xiaolong's confidence, Nangong Yuqing let out a sigh of relief. "That's good. As long as you can convince Bailey Shi, then Di Beichen and the others won't continue to make things difficult for you." "I understand." Nangong Xiaolong's face darkened. When he thought about how his current predicament was all thanks to them, he really wanted to kill these damned fellows. "Sooner or later, I'll make them pay 100-fold. Endure for a while and calm down. This time, we'll turn big things into small things and small things into nothing. As for other matters, we'll talk about it later." After Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Yuqing entered the Bailey family, the surrounding cultivators all looked at them. At this time, there were only two people who came. Other than Nangong Xiaolong and Yiqingyu, they could not think of any other possibility. That must be Nangong Xiaolong. He is really shameless. This guy is scum. That's right. He actually dared to treat Shi-er like that. He's simply inhumane. This guy isn't a good person to begin with. You can tell just by looking at his appearance. Neither of them are pleasing to the eye. Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing walked in under the curses of the crowd. Even if they were thick-skinned, it was still hard for them to bear being pointed at like this. These fellows really have bad mouths. Nangong Xiaolong's face was ashen. He had never been scolded like this in all these years. "It's all because of you." Nangong Yuqing's face turned red. In the face of all these people pointing at him, he felt like he couldn't even lift his head. Most importantly, these people completely regarded him and Nangong Xiaolong as the same kind of people. Not to mention other aspects, at least in terms of feelings, he and Nangong Xiaolong were not the same type. Chapter 52-52. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others heard the news of Nangong Xiaolong and Bailey Yunqi's arrival, they came out of their rooms. Sure enough, they saw the two loathsome figures from afar. Bailey Yunyan and Bailey Shi happened to be with them, so they didn't expect to bump into them. Bailey Shi looked at the azure figure in front of her. The smile on her face immediately froze, and there was no longer any trace of a smile on her face. Nangong Xiaolong also noticed Bailey Shi's figure and a trace of a smile appeared on his face. As long as Bailey Shi was here, he didn't need to worry too much. Nangong Yuqing actually came with Nangong Xiaolong. Xiren raised his eyebrows with ridicule and disgust. These two fellows are really worthy of being a family. They both look so loathsome. Following Xiren's words, everyone nodded slightly. Their point of view was very similar. When Nangong Yuqing saw Di Beichen's group, his expression sank. However, he didn't lose his momentum just because the other side had more people. "Di Beichen, we're already here. You can't refuse the antidote," Nangong Yuqing said in a deep voice. The corners of Di Beichen's mouth rose into a mocking smile, but his black eyes were filled with coldness. "That will depend on whether Nangong Xiaolong's apology is sincere or not." At the same time, Bailey Yuni and the others rushed over after hearing the news. They were very clear on how excessive Nangong Xiaolong was. If he was just being perfunctory, they definitely wouldn't agree to it. Nangong Xiaolong glanced at Di Beichen and said, "So I only need to obtain Shi-er's forgiveness?" Hearing this, Di Baichen's gaze turned to Bai Li Yunyan and Bai Li Shi. This matter was still up to them to decide. That's right. Bai Li Yunyan nodded, as long as you can obtain Shi-er's forgiveness, we'll let you go. All right then. A smile appeared on Nangong Xiaolong's face. This was the answer he wanted. It would be difficult to get other people to agree, but getting Bai Li Shi to agree was much easier. In the next moment, Nangong Xiaolong turned to Bai Li Shi and said, Shi, let's talk alone. After saying that, Nangong Xiaolong grabbed Bai Li Shi's hand. However, Bai Li Shi flung his hand away. Her pretty face was cold and distant. If you have something to say it here. Nangong Xiaolong was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect Bai Li Shi to have such an attitude. One had to know that Bai Li Shi was very happy to have the opportunity to get close to him in the past. Isn't it inconvenient to talk about our matters here? Nangong Xiaolong asked again. In his opinion, it was easy to deal with women. As long as he said a few nice words and coaxed her, there would be no problem. However, it was inconvenient to do so in front of so many people. Bai Li Shi sneered, there's only you and me here. There's no we. Didn't you say the same thing to me before? She clearly remembered Nangong Xiaolong's heartless appearance back then. If she had been blinded by a single leaf in the past, then she would be a fool if she still acted foolishly with so many people supporting her. Chapter 52-53. Hearing Nangong Yuqing's reminder, Nangong Xiaolong nodded. It seemed that he had been too naive. After not seeing her for a while, Bai Li Shi's attitude had become much more unyielding. It seemed that Bai Li Yunyan and the others had been instilling ideas into her. I don't need to tell you how deep our feelings are. I believe you can feel my feelings for you. Back then, I had no choice but to do what I did. You know the difference between the two of us. However, I've finally convinced my family that I can take you home as my concubine. Isn't this what you've always wanted? Nangong Xiaolong looked at Bai Li Shi with sparkling eyes filled with joy and determination. He knew how eager Bai Li Shi was to return to the family with him. As long as he made this promise, Bai Li Shi definitely wouldn't refuse. As for having another concubine, it didn't mean anything to him. Once Bai Li Shi returned with him, she would be part of his family. No matter what happened, Bai Li Yunyan and the others wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Hearing Nangong Xiaolong's words, Bai Li Hongzhuang and the others' expressions changed. They had seen shameless people before, but they had never seen someone this shameless. Nangong Xiaolong, if I remember correctly, you're already a cripple, right? You still have the nerve to ask Shi-er to return with you? Ziren looked at Nangong Xiaolong in disbelief. They had underestimated this guy's shamelessness. It was simply shocking. That's right. You can even say something like that and still want to be a concubine. Bai Li Yuni rolled his eyes. With your current situation, we wouldn't agree even if you took Shi home as your wife. This guy is probably stupid. Even now, he still can't see reality clearly. Sheng Guaniying sighed. Her expression was filled with sympathy, making others feel that Nangong Xiaolong had become an idiot. Nangong Xiaolong, who thought he could move Bai Li Shi, suddenly had an unsightly expression when he heard everyone's words. In the face of such impolite ridicule, he really could not continue to pretend. At the same time, Bai Li Shi's voice rang out, Nangong Xiaolong, I'm no longer the Bai Li Shi of the past. You don't have to play tricks in front of me. Since you want to apologize, then apologize properly. Otherwise, just disappear. She used to think that Nangong Xiaolong was her world, but it had only been 2 years. She no longer looked the same. A few days ago, she still didn't know how to face Nangong Xiaolong. However, after she found out that she could cultivate her family's cultivation method and found what she needed to do, her thoughts changed completely. Perhaps she had been too narrow-minded in the past. She had never thought that there were more things she could do other than obsessing over these things. Now that she had seen how Bailey Hongzhuang was so powerful at such a young age, and how she was able to take on the position of the head of the family with ease, she finally understood that there could be another way in life. Looking at Nangong Xiaolong in front of her again, she no longer liked him as much as before. She only felt that she was too stupid back then. Chapter 52-54. After seeing Bailey Shi's performance, Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with joy. Their efforts to enlighten Bailey Shi hadn't been in vain. Seeing this guy again, Bailey Yunyan's heart didn't soften at all. Before this, Bailey Yunyan was a little worried. After all, Bailey Yunyan knew all too well how Bailey Shi had risked her life for Nangong Xiaolong. How could it be so easy for her to let go? Fortunately, Bailey Shi really did it. Bailey Tianheng looked at Nangong Xiaolong, who was still unwilling to give up, and said, either kneel down and apologize, or get lost. Bailey Shi was his little sister who he watched grow up, yet she was ruined by such a shameless scum. He was heartbroken. He didn't have the slightest intention of being polite to such a guy. As soon as these words came out, Nangong Xiaolong was stunned. His eyes widened, and his face turned red. You dare to make me kneel? If you don't want to kneel, you can just leave. Bailey Tianheng stretched out his hand and pointed in the direction of the Bailey family's door. This guy was here to ask for medicine, yet he still dared to be so arrogant. It was obvious that Bailey Shi was bullied by him when they were together. Seeing this, Nangong Xiaolong's anger surged. A mere cultivator from the Bailey family dared to speak to him with such an attitude. He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but speak up after seeing everyone's attitude. We came here to apologize, but don't you think you've gone too far by humiliating us like this? Too far. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. The one who was hurt is Bailey Shi. What did we do? Since we came here to apologize, then we should apologize properly. Did Nangong Xiaolong's previous words have the slightest intention of apologizing? Even now, he's still trying to take advantage of us. It can be seen that you don't have the slightest bit of regret. Bailey Yunyan's ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with coldness and disgust. She was already full of disgust for Nangong Xiaolong, and now his behavior made her feel that this guy was a complete bastard. Now that he was impotent, he still wanted to marry Bailey Shi. This meant that during this period of time, he didn't even think of apologizing. He only treated Bailey Shi as a bargaining chip. If that's the case, then scram. Nangong Yuqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes flickering. He didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly stand up. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is the Bailey family's business. What does it have to do with you? Nangong Xiaolong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with dissatisfaction. It was because this woman had poisoned him that he had to suffer such humiliation. He knew very well what kind of person Bailey Hongzhuang was. If it weren't for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Bailey Shi definitely wouldn't have become like this. This is our patriarch. Bailey Tianheng said solemnly. She, is a member of our clan. Naturally, she is related to patriarch. Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Xiaolong were stunned. They glanced at each other, wondering if they had misheard. When did Bailey Hongzhuang become the patriarch of the Bailey family? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's surname was Bailey, she came from the lower realm. She had nothing to do with the Bailey family. Chapter 52-55. Seeing Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Xiaolong's stunned expression, Bailey Tianheng understood their astonishment and said, I said, this is the head of the Bailey family. Looking in the direction of Bailey Tianheng's hand, it was Bailey Hongzhuang. Are you kidding? Nangong Xiaolong was stunned. This was too unbelievable. It's not like we don't know her identity. She has nothing to do with the Bailey family. How can she be the head of your family? Her identity? After hearing Nangong Xiaolong's words, Di Beichen's eyes suddenly became gloomy. His voice was cold and hard. What? Noticing Di Beichen's cold gaze, Nangong Xiaolong was startled and couldn't help but take a step back. Not to mention other things, when facing Di Beichen, he felt a little guilty. After all, this guy's attainments in the dark attribute were simply abnormal. Even Di Xiaofeng couldn't give him such pressure. Nangong Yuqing stood in front of Nangong Xiaolong and looked straight at Di Beichen. So, the Di family and the Bailey family are now working together. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that. Are you blind? Di Xiaofeng said indifferently. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing sneered and his eyes fell on Di Beichen. Di Beichen, in order to give your wife a suitable identity, you really put in a lot of effort. For a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang had been criticized because of her identity. How many people thought that she was not worthy of Di Beichen? Even if the Bailey family's strength couldn't be compared with the Di family, it was still a family with a long history. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was the head of the family. Her identity was completely different. He knew that Di Beichen loved Bailey Hongzhuang very much, but he didn't expect that he would even prepare such a thing for her. This is the Bailey family's business. It has nothing to do with me. Di Beichen spread out his hands and said. Do you think anyone would believe what you said? Nangong Yuqing did not believe such an excuse. It was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to do this by herself. Bailey Tianheng, I can't believe that your family would do such a thing just to get close to the Di family. But, your position as the clan head has been taken away just like that. How can you accept it? This was the decision of our previous patriarch. Bailey Tianheng coldly looked at Nangong Yuqing. What's more, the patriarch is a member of our Bailey family. What do you mean by clinging on to him? Bailey Yunyan also stood up. Let me tell you, don't make wild guesses. The patriarch is the destined person of our family. She has the blood of our family flowing in her body. Originally, they were certain that the Bailey family had made such a decision to get close to the Di family and the Lin family. However, after hearing Bailey Yunyan's words, they became uncertain. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was really a member of the Bailey family? Wasn't this news too unbelievable? For a moment, Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Xiaolong were extremely depressed. If they could say that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were meddling in other people's business before, they couldn't say that now. This was because Nangong Xiaolong had bullied Bailey Hongzhuang's family. Whether it was the Di family or the Lin family, it was reasonable for them to intervene. Chapter 52-56. Seeing the two looking at each other in dismay, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice slowly rang out. Since she has already thought things through and Nangong Xiaolong doesn't have the slightest sincerity in apologizing, then let's drop this matter. In any case, we don't care about your apology. Scram. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face was cold. It wasn't that she didn't give Nangong Xiaolong a chance, but this guy had been here for a while and hadn't even said a word of apology. Since that was the case, why should they waste their time here and waste their time with him? As soon as she finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and walked away. Bailey Yunyan and the others also turned around. They all understood why Bailey Hongzhuang was doing this. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang had already given Nangong Xiaolong a chance by not poisoning him to death. However, this guy still had an unrepentant appearance. Since that was the case, they might as well let him die. Nangong Xiaolong clearly didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to leave like this. When he thought about how his life was still in her hands, he couldn't help but panic. Bailey Hongzhuang, wait. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't pay any attention to him. She didn't stop walking. The reason why they wanted Nangong Xiaolong to apologize was to help Bailey Shi put an end to the past. On one hand, Bailey Shi had already seen through everything. On the other hand, Nangong Xiaolong was stubborn and didn't have any thoughts of repentance. Since that was the case, why bother? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others weren't pretending, Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing looked at each other. They both expected the situation to be bad. No. We can't let them leave like this. Nangong Yuqing said anxiously. They had come here for the antidote. If they didn't obtain it, then Nangong Xiaolong's life would be in danger. Nangong Xiaolong quickly chased after them and circled around to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, you said that as long as I obtain Bailey Shi's forgiveness, you will give me the antidote. How can you go back on your word? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. You're going back on your word? Nangong Xiaolong, aren't you too shameless? Sheng Huaniying couldn't stand it anymore. I haven't heard you apologize yet, and you still have the nerve to say that we didn't keep our word. Patriarch, ignore him. Bailey Shi's expression was indifferent. His eyes were cold and merciless. Now, the more she looked at Nangong Xiaolong, the more she felt that she had been foolish. Now that this guy had embarrassed himself in front of everyone, she felt ashamed. Bailey Shi, how could you do this to me? Nangong Xiaolong couldn't understand how Bailey Shi had become a completely different person in such a short time. Don't you know how you treated me back then? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have become like this. Thinking of her unborn child, she felt her heart ache. It was all because of this man's heartlessness and her own incompetence that her child had to leave so coldly. Men, see the guests out. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slightly parted. Her voice was cold, but it carried an irresistible taste. The Bailey family's guards immediately stood up and coldly looked at Nangong Xiaolong and Sheng Huaniying. Chapter 52-57. Seeing that the other party was serious, Nangong Xiaolong didn't dare to be as indifferent as before. No matter what, his own life was the most important. I apologize, I'll apologize immediately. Nangong Xiaolong hurriedly said, his gaze turning to Bailey Shi, I'm sorry, it was all my fault. I hurt you, please forgive me. The child is already gone, what wrong did he do? Bailey Shi glared at Nangong Xiaolong, flames burning in her eyes, as well as boundless sorrow. She clearly remembered the pain of losing her child, it was all because of this man in front of her. Back then, he was so heartless, she never thought that he would kneel in front of her and apologize. Hearing Bailey Shi's words, Nangong Xiaolong's expression shook. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. In the past, he didn't care about this matter at all. As a direct descendant of the Nangong family, who knows how many women wanted to bear his child, he didn't care at all. Moreover, Bailey Shi was just a woman from the Bailey family, she wasn't worthy of him. But now, he was a cripple, he couldn't have another generation, this made him feel incomparably regretful. If Bailey Shi had given birth to this child back then, he would have at least had another child. I really know my wrongs. Nangong Xiaolong stared at Bailey Shi, it was all my fault back then, you should blame and hate me. Tears slowly appeared in the corners of Bailey Shi's eyes. No matter how much she tried to hold on, the pain was still vivid in her mind. She used to be so bright, filled with fantasies about everything, but all her hopes were destroyed by this guy, bit by bit. Now, she was covered in bruises, all her beautiful fantasies turned into wishful thinking. Her life was ruined by the hands of the man she used to love the most. Just forgive me this once. For the sake of our past friendship, please spare me this time. I won't forgive you. Bailey Shi angrily shouted, her eyes turning red, it's all because of you, everything is ruined. In the next moment, Bailey Shi resolutely turned around, her face filled with hatred and hatred. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't hesitate. The choice was in Bailey Shi's hands. No matter what decision she made, they would support her. Seeing Bailey Shi leave, Nangong Xiaolong immediately knelt down. "Sorry, I'm really sorry." Nangong Xiaolong hugged Bailey Shi's leg. "I was too stupid in the past, that's why I did such a beastly thing. I regret it. I really regret it. Can you believe me and forgive me? No matter what, we once had a beautiful time. Do you really want me to die? Please, I don't want to die." Nangong Xiaolong's eyes were filled with anxiety. This was his only hope. He had consulted so many doctors before, but none of them could solve his problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's method of poisoning was simply too cruel, so this was his only chance. Although he miscalculated and didn't expect Bailey Shi to be so heartless, he had to get the antidote even if he had to risk it. Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but speak up when she saw this scene. "Bailey Shi, Xiaolong really knows his wrongs. Do you really have the heart to let him die like this?" Chapter 52-58. You just want to live. If it wasn't for the patriarch, would you have come? Bailey Shi sneered, but her expression was sad. If Nangong Xiaolong had apologized like this, she might have believed him. But she had clearly seen his actions just now. How could she believe him? "What do I have to do for you to let me go?" In the next moment, Nangong Xiaolong kowtowed. "I beg you, give me the antidote. I'm begging you." Bailey Shi's eyes were red. Looking at the man kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy, her heart was filled with mixed feelings. She subconsciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were not far away, her eyes constantly changing. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke. "Leave this matter to Shi, or we'll leave first." Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan and the others were stunned. They didn't understand, but they still nodded and left with Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Xiaolong and the others shouldn't be here for long. "Everyone, there's no need to worry about this matter. Let's go back." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly as she spoke to everyone. As the family disciples dispersed, Mo Yunjua spoke. "You knew that Bailey Shi would be soft-hearted, so you had everyone leave, right?" She still couldn't bear to do it. Her inky black phoenix eyes were filled with wisdom. From Bailey Shi's gaze, she knew that no matter how tough she appeared, she couldn't watch Nangong Xiaolong die with her own eyes. After all, he was once the person she loved. Perhaps Nangong Xiaolong would die from someone else's injuries in the future, but she couldn't do it herself. Wouldn't that be letting Nangong Xiaolong off too easily? Shang Guanying frowned. "This kind of person should die. Forget it. Even if that kind of person survives this time, he will die at the hands of others sooner or later." Di Baichen's expression was calm. This situation wasn't out of his expectations. Bailey Shi wasn't a cruel person. Compared to them who had been training outside for a long time, Bailey Shi was much more simple. She wasn't as ruthless and decisive as them. However, people would always grow. After this incident, she had grown a lot. "That's true." When Xiren chuckled, "But that fellow has become like this, he has already become a joke. Since he wants to struggle at death's door, why not give him a chance?" When Bailey Shi saw Bailey Hongzhuang leading everyone away, she couldn't help but feel guilty. She understood that with the patriarch's intelligence, he must have noticed her hesitation, which was why he made such a decision. Please spare my life." Seeing this, Bailey Shi coldly looked at the man without any dignity on the ground. She suddenly didn't understand why she liked this guy. "I'll spare your lowly life." Bailey Shi threw the porcelain bottle on the ground. When Nangong Xiaolong saw the porcelain bottle, he hurriedly picked it up as if he had found a treasure. His face was filled with joy. "You can continue to struggle at death's door. Sooner or later, the heavens will take care of someone like you. Now get out of our family, I don't want to see you again. Everything that happened between us will disappear like smoke and pretend it never happened. When her voice fell, she resolutely chose to leave. Perhaps, she was only doing this to give herself an explanation. Chapter 52-59. Watching Shi leave, Nangong Xiaolong looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand. His heart was filled with complex emotions, but his gaze quickly turned gloomy. Those damn Bailey family bastards, how dare they humiliate me? Nangong Yuqing sighed in relief. Today's situation made him feel powerless. From the beginning to the end, he didn't have a chance to speak. Fortunately, Shi gave the antidote to Nangong Xiaolong. Revenge is a dish best served cold. As long as we can obtain the antidote, we will have succeeded this time. Nangong Yuqing slowly said. Nangong Xiaolong's eyes were filled with hatred. Sooner or later, I will return all of this to them. This is the Bailey family's territory. Be careful with your words. Let's leave this place first. Nangong Yuqing cautiously looked around. Fortunately, the thing he was most worried about didn't happen. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the others attacked them here, their lives would be in danger. Although Nangong Xiaolong had suffered a lot of humiliation, at least he would be able to keep his life. Compared to that, nothing else mattered. Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Nangong Xiaolong restrained himself and quickly left the Bailey family with Nangong Yuqing. If possible, he really didn't want to stay here for a second longer. The cultivators of the Bailey clan also saw Nangong Xiaolong kneeling and kowtowing to Shi from afar. At this moment, seeing them quickly escape, their eyes were full of ridicule. This despicable and shameless bastard has finally received his punishment today. He deserved it. I heard that he can no longer have sex. This is the best outcome. What are you looking at? What's there to look at? Nangong Xiaolong couldn't help but roar. These damn bastards, they used to be trampled under his feet. Now, they actually dared to ridicule him so unscrupulously. This was simply unbearable. Nangong Yuqing pulled Nangong Xiaolong and warned him, let's go quickly. In the next moment, the two of them used their movement skills and left the Bailey family as fast as they could. It wasn't until they left the Bailey family's gate that the two of them quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Yuqing, you said that the antidote should be real, right? Nangong Xiaolong looked at the antidote in his hand, but didn't immediately take it. There was still some doubt in his heart. You were already poisoned before. She had no reason to lie to you. Nangong Yuqing spread his hands. If Bailey Hongzhuang ants wanted to kill them, they would already be dead. Why would they go through so much trouble? Hearing this, Nangong Xiaolong nodded. You're right. I'll take it then. Take it, Nangong Yuqing said calmly. There won't be any problems. Tianheng Tianheng Tianheng's Tianheng's Tianheng, Tianheng Tianheng Tianheng's Tianheng Tianheng, Tianheng with Tianheng 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 Tianheng. Bailey Tianheng is the Bailey family's young master. Looking at his appearance, he doesn't seem to have any objections to Bailey Hongzhuang taking over the family head position. On the contrary, he seems to be very supportive. Nangong Xiaolong was puzzled. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang's position as the Tianheng family's Tianheng was replaced. No matter how he looked at it, it was impossible for him to accept it. Chapter 52-60. I really can't think of any benefits that could make them hand over the position of the head of the family. Nangong Xiaolong didn't think so. No matter which family it was, they all attached great importance to their own interests. Perhaps they could admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was from their family, but they would never hand over their family to someone else, even if the other party offered them great benefits. Bailey Yunyan said that Bailey Hongzhuang is from their family, and it doesn't seem to be a lie. However, Bailey Hongzhuang is obviously from the lower world. Is there any connection between them? Nangong Yuqing's expression was complicated. They said that Bailey Hongzhuang is someone destined to be in the family. Don't you think it's strange? It's very strange. Nangong Xiaolong nodded. Although I don't know how they did it, from the current situation, the Bailey family is completely dependent on the Di family. Nangong Yuqing sighed. He didn't expect Di Beichen and the others to have so many tricks up their sleeves. Now that the Chu family has been roped in by them, it seems that there is no benefit in being their enemy in the future. Nangong Yuqing was extremely helpless about this point. In the past, his father had always supported him in pursuing Xiao Soul. Now, because the Di family's strength had increased, his father had chosen to give up. This showed how big the change was. Yuqing, aren't you too spineless? Nangong Xiaolong rolled his eyes, and his eyebrows were full of anger. What's so great about the Di family? If we really fight, our family won't be weaker than them. It's just a Bailey family. What's the big deal? Even if there are a few more small families like the Bailey family attached to them, they won't have much influence. Although that's true, the potential they have shown during this time is amazing. Nangong Yuqing naturally understood that the Di family couldn't pose a huge threat to them, but the potential they had shown was still important. Sooner or later, we will find a way to deal with them. Nangong Xiaolong's eyes were malicious. And that bitch Lin Qianqian, I will definitely turn her into ashes. Ever since Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others never mentioned this matter in front of Bailey Shi again. Originally, Bailey Shi was a little worried about how to explain it to them. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the 4 pieces of the primordial chaos ring and pieced them together again of the Di Beichen. Of the Beichent. B, to, B. B. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang piecing the Di family map together, Di Beichen came to her side. Wife, do you want to go to the place the Di family map points to? Chapter 52-61. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I feel that our current strength has improved compared to before. Maybe we can go in the direction indicated by this map fragment. Indeed. Di Beichen nodded. As long as the map fragment is fated to be with us, maybe we can gain a lot after going there. After Bailey Hongzhuang pieced the map fragments together, her gaze suddenly changed when she looked at the map fragment again. Di Beichen, why is the location on the map different? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen took a closer look and his gaze suddenly froze. Sure enough, the location on the map was very different from what they had seen at the time. When they saw it, it was clearly land, but now it was an ocean. Ocean? Di Beichen frowned slightly. It was undoubtedly difficult to determine the location of the ocean. Even if there were several points on the map, they still didn't know where they were. Why did the location suddenly change? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with surprise. During this period of time, she hadn't looked at the map fragment again and didn't notice when it changed. Wife, did you notice that the small words on the map that warned us have disappeared? Di Beichen turned his gaze and asked. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the map. Sure enough, the small text that had reminded her had quietly disappeared. The two of them looked at each other and many thoughts flashed through their minds. Could it be that we weren't strong enough before, so we didn't see the real map? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. This was the most likely reason she thought of. Di Beichen nodded, very likely. It seems that the person who drew this map is a good person. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with understanding and admiration. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't have warned others of the dangers on the map. The owner of this map is kind-hearted. Even if he had already marked on the map that we need to be careful, he was still worried that others would not be able to resist and directly go there, so he used such a trick. I didn't expect that a map could have so many tricks. It's really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the map in front of her. This was definitely the most special map she had ever seen. I didn't understand formations before, but now I found that there are traces of formations on this map. It can be seen that the owner of the map is very strong and has a certain understanding of formations. This place is so mysterious and on the ocean. Do you think it's the abyss of the Bitter Sea? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows raised. Among the three abyss, the Bitter Sea was undoubtedly the most mysterious. So far, no one knew where the abyss of the Bitter Abyss was. The map to the map, is it to the ocean to be a coincidence? Di Bei-chen smiled faintly, yes or no, we will know once we investigate. But there are still many things to do now. I'm afraid we won't be able to go there for a while. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. Ever since they came to the upper realm, they had been busy. After returning to the family, there were even more things to do. However, it was fortunate that she returned to the Bailey family in the end. It was really wonderful. This map is so mysterious and the owner has warned us many times. It can be seen that it's really dangerous. Chapter 52-62. There's a place marked here, Taboo Ocean. In the entire map, the most eye-catching place was the northernmost sea. They had just arrived in the upper realm not long ago and didn't know much about the environment here. As for the Northern Ocean, they had never even heard of it. Therefore, they didn't know what kind of place it was. Let's ask Big Brother if he knows this place. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Bei-chen. This kind of thing could only be known by those who lived in the upper realm. Okay. Taboo Ocean. Di Xiaofeng's eyes widened when he heard this term. His handsome face was filled with surprise and astonishment. Why did you mention the Northern Ocean all of a sudden? We just heard this term by chance, so we want to ask what kind of place it is. Oh. Di Xiaofeng understood, the Taboo Ocean is a forbidden area in the upper realm. Actually, I don't know much about it. I just heard that it was a forbidden area since I was young, but I don't know the specific reason. Forbidden area? Di Bei-chen frowned. It seemed that the reminder of the owner of the map was really necessary. No matter where it was, as long as it was labeled as a forbidden area, it was bound to be full of danger. That's right. Di Xiaofeng nodded. It said that this place is very dangerous and no one has gone there for many years. Usually, people rarely mention this place, so it's strange to hear you mention it. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Since even Di Xiaofeng didn't know, it seemed that it wouldn't be easy for them to know more about the Taboo Ocean. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Bei-chen and Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions. Seeing that they seemed very disappointed, he said, if you want to know more, you might as well ask the second head of the Bailey family. The Bailey family has been passed down for many years. He's also an elder, so he definitely knows more than me. Otherwise, you can ask father when you go back. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, then I'll ask the second head later. When Bai Li Fan heard Bailey Hongzhuang ask about the Taboo Ocean, his reaction was similar to Di Xiaofeng's, but he was more silent. Patriarch, are you going to the Taboo Ocean? I just want to inquire about the situation of the Taboo Ocean. I heard Big Brother say that the Taboo Ocean is a taboo area. So, I want to know why it is called a taboo area. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her expression calm and relaxed. Before they officially decided to go, they did not intend to spread the news. Moreover, the mere mention of the forbidden lands had already caused everyone to have such expressions. If he were to say that they were going there, who knew what kind of reaction they would have? The northernmost sea is a sea region. However, this sea region is different from other sea regions. It is extremely peculiar. Bai Li Fan's gaze was distant and deep, as if he was recalling something that had happened many years ago. Chapter 5263. Actually, the original name of the taboo ocean wasn't this, but because it was called a forbidden area, everyone gradually called it the taboo ocean. Hearing Bai Li Fan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and their expressions became solemn. Even if they had already guessed that the taboo ocean wasn't simple, after some understanding, they discovered that the situation was undoubtedly much more complicated than they had imagined. Bai Li Fan sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's slightly solemn expressions, and couldn't help but remind them, Patriarch, no one has been to the taboo ocean for many years, it's really too dangerous, you shouldn't go there. Back then, many experts fell there, the degree of danger is far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. No matter how important the reason is, you can't go to that place. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang explained that she just wanted to understand, Bai Li Fan understood that if she didn't want to go, Bailey Hongzhuang definitely wouldn't ask such a question. He admired Bailey Hongzhuang from the bottom of his heart, and really didn't want her to be in any danger. If it was any other place, even if there was danger, with their ability, they might be able to turn the danger into safety, but this was the taboo ocean, there was no chance of survival, they absolutely couldn't go there. Seeing the worry on Bai Li Fan's face, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, Second Patriarch, don't worry, we won't go. That's good. Only then did Bai Li Fan feel more at ease. After the two left Bai Li Fan's place and returned to their residence, their mood was somewhat heavy. I didn't expect the taboo ocean to be so dangerous, so many peerless experts disappeared there, it's really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, after understanding the reason, she also understood why no one went to this place at all. It was so dangerous, unless they didn't want to live, otherwise, they simply wouldn't go. I don't think so. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows slightly, since this map fragment fell into our hands, it proves that its owner must have been to the taboo ocean, and had the opportunity to draw this map. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, she originally felt that all hope was extinguished, but after such a reminder, it was indeed rekindled. In any case, this place is after all very dangerous. Her clear black and white eyes revealed a serious and contemplative look, we'd better wait until we're a little stronger before we go explore. It seems that wife still intends to go. Di Beichen said with a chuckle. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head, her delicate face full of craftiness. This map is so fated with us. If we don't go, wouldn't we be letting down its owner's good intentions? It's it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it for him to spend so much effort. Chapter 5264. When they saw Di Beichen and Nangong Yuqing come back safely, they were relieved. At the same time, they looked at Di Beichen and the others in a new light. If they were ordinary people, it was unlikely that they would give up such a good opportunity. However, the other party had done it, so their thoughts had changed a little. However, when Nangong Yuqing said that Bailey Hongzhuang had become the head of the Bailey family, everyone was extremely shocked. They couldn't find any clues about this strange news. If Nangong Yuqing and Nangong Yuqing hadn't said that it was true, they wouldn't have believed it. After the news spread from the Nangong family, the Jun family and the Xiao family also received the same news. Bailey Hongzhuang has become the head of the Bailey family. Jun Lingxuan's lips twitched and his eyebrows raised. Is the Bailey family crazy? Even if the Di family is powerful, they wouldn't give up their own family just to cling to the Di family, right? Jun Xianxiao frowned. This is indeed strange. Since Di Beichen came back, many of the Di family's actions have been strange. I really don't understand. Everything was under our control. Now, because of a mistake, so many variables have appeared. It's getting more and more difficult to deal with the D family. Jun Hongcheng's face was gloomy. One careless move and the whole game was lost. Now, he only felt that all his plans had been ruined because of this mistake. Although the Bailey family was only a small family and didn't have much to do with the overall situation, the D family had been showing signs of becoming stronger. I don't know what benefits the D family gave the Bailey family to make them do such an incredible thing. However, even if Bailey Hongzhuang has become the head of the Bailey family, so what? She's just a little prettier on the surface. Everyone knows that she's from the lower realms. Jun Lingxuan's eyes were filled with malice. He didn't want to be defeated by Di Beichen like this. No matter what, he had to think of a way to turn the tables. Jun Hongqing looked at Jun Lingxuan and said, "Ling Sun, how is your relationship with Xiao Sou? This Bailey Hongzhuang can no longer be underestimated. You have to hold on to Xiao Sou tightly. As long as Xiao Sou became the Saint of Light, her status in the future would be different from before. You'd better strike while the iron is hot. We'll settle this marriage as soon as possible." For some reason, he had a bad premonition in his heart, so he couldn't just sit there and wait for death. He had to do something. At the very least, they had to hold on to the Xiao family. Only through a marriage alliance would they be able to tie the two together. Hearing Jun Hongcheng's words, Jun Lingxuan understood what he meant. He immediately nodded and said, "Father, don't worry. There won't be a problem." "You're really confident?" Jun Hongcheng stared at Jun Lingxuan. "You can't exaggerate things like this. If you're confident enough, I'll ask the Great Elder to accompany you to propose marriage." A complicated light flashed across Jun Lingxuan's eyes. He then nodded seriously, "I'm confident. After this trip to the Divine Cloud Secret Realm, Xiao Sou's feelings for me are very deep. I'm sure of this." Although he had pursued Xiao Sou in the past, Xiao Sou had always maintained a certain distance from him. Chapter 52-65. Even though Xiao Sou did not say it out loud, his feelings were very obvious. He believed that if he were to propose marriage, Xiao Sou would not reject him. However, there was still some resentment in his heart. When he thought about how he had helplessly given up on Shitao back then, he could not get over this hurdle. Even though he understood that this was not Xiao Sou's fault, she had still led him to give up. When he thought about how desperate Shitao must have been at that time, his heart felt very uncomfortable. Whenever he saw Xiao Sou, he would involuntarily think of this matter. Now, only by marrying Xiao Sou could he protect the interests of the family. In front of this, everything else was naturally insignificant. The most important thing was for the family to be strong. Looking at Jun Lingxuan's confident appearance, Jun Hongcheng's heart was also comforted. His son was already able to stand on his own. There were so many people pursuing Xiao Sou, but Xiao Sou did not agree. Now, his son was able to capture her heart. This ability was undoubtedly excellent. Since that's the case, I'll ask the Great Elder to prepare a gift. When the time comes, you and the Great Elder will make a trip to the Xiao family. Yes, father. Jun Hongcheng nodded in satisfaction. Even though the D family had been in the limelight in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm this time, it did not mean that they had been completely suppressed. As long as the marriage was successful, it was very possible for them to make a comeback in the future. It was just a small family, so it was nothing. Furthermore, no one could guarantee when Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang would fall. Naturally, everything would not count. After hearing this news, Xiao Sou was also extremely shocked. She really could not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang had been given such a title for no reason. Even if the Bailey family was not a large force, it was different to be crowned with the title of family head. Say Wu, have you heard of this before? Xiao Yanlong asked with a calm face. Xiao Sou shook her head, I've never heard of it. I only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Yunyan had a good relationship. I thought it was because Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan had feelings for each other. That's why they were so close. Is Bailey Hongzhuang related to the Bailey family? Xiao Yanlong's eyes shone with a thoughtful light. The Bailey family has been passed down for thousands of years. I also have some understanding. Bai Li Fan is a very responsible person. He will definitely not hand the family over to an outsider. As a family head himself, he knew this all too well. He would never do something that would affect the foundation of his family. Moreover, even if Bai Li Fan was possessed, his family would never agree to it. Xiao Sou was confused. I don't know, I don't think there will be a relationship between them. It's really strange. Say Wu, you have to be careful, this Bailey Hongzhuang will be a strong opponent for you. Earlier, when he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute was extremely amazing, he had this feeling. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity had such a big change, his feelings were even deeper. He had a hunch that this Bailey Hongzhuang was not an easy person to deal with, and was likely to bring a lot of trouble to his daughter. As Xiao Yanlong's voice fell, Xiao Sou's complexion sank, her hands unconsciously clenched into fists, and her eyes were filled with a complex and fierce light. She had to become the holy maiden of the light as soon as possible, only then would she be able to cut off all the rumors. Tong Yunshu raised an eyebrow and instinctively looked at Xiao Yanlong. It seems that something must have happened that has agitated Xiao Sou. A woman has appeared this time and her talent in the light attribute is not inferior to Sou's. Sou feels threatened. Xiao Yanlong did not hide anything from Tong Yunshu. After so many years of contact, he knew very well how much Tong Yunshu loved and cared for Xiao Sou. Chapter 52-67. Hearing this, Xiao Sou's expression became complicated. She was not willing to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was stronger than her, but there was no point in holding on while they waited. Her innate talent is indeed very strong. When she used her light energy, I could sense that her energy was purer than mine. Not only that, her comprehension ability is also very high. According to my understanding, she only understood the cultivation method of light energy and only had the most basic understanding of its usage. However, she was actually able to grasp the chant on her own. Furthermore, her chant has a very large influence. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance had been deeply imprinted in her heart. That scene was unforgettable. Even now, when she dreamed about it at night, she would often associate it with that scene, causing her to be unable to eat or sleep in peace. You're saying that she comprehended the chant on her own? Tong Yunshu could not help but raise her voice. Her usually calm face was filled with astonishment and shock. As the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly, she knew all too well how difficult it was to comprehend this on one's own. Up until now, she had never met anyone who could comprehend it on their own. Xiao Sou's innate talent was already the strongest in the Holy Light Assembly. Back then, she had spent a lot of time learning the chant, and it had also been with everyone's guidance. If this woman could comprehend it on her own, then her innate talent was simply astonishing. Xiao Sou nodded slightly. She only came to the upper realm in the past 2 years. She simply did not have the opportunity to carefully learn about this. I personally saw her go from failing to chant at the beginning to succeeding in the end. I also do not know how she did it. In the next moment, Xiao Sou tightly grasped Tong Yunshu's hand. Master, you have to help me. No matter what, I cannot lose this position. Don't worry, Master will definitely stand by your side. Tong Yunshu's expression was serious. Her gentle words inexplicably made Xiao Sou feel relieved. You are already recognized as the Holy Light Assembly's Holy Light Assembly. This identity will not change. I previously heard from other branches that there was a woman whose innate talent had reached 100%, but I have not had the opportunity to meet her. Now it seems that I will have to go and find out more. Tong Yunshu frowned slightly. Originally, Xiao Sou's identity as the Holy Maiden of the Light was already set in stone. Who would have thought that in just a few short years, there would be so many changes? Vice President, is the person you're talking about from Rongan City? Hearing this, Tong Yunshu looked at Xiao Yanlong in surprise. How did you know? I've already investigated. That person is Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Yanlong sighed. When this news had first spread back to the clan, he had not paid too much attention to it. After all, she was just a small character from a small place. She wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. However, he didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would become a member of the D family, so he missed the best opportunity to make a move. He really regretted it. If he had immediately sent people to deal with this hidden danger, then so many things wouldn't have happened now. What? Xiao Sou and Tong Yunshu were both stunned. They had never heard of this before. It's true. Xiao Yanlong's face was filled with regret. He then asked Tong Yunshu, Vice President, is there any way for Sou to become the true Holy Maiden of the Light as soon as possible? Chapter 52-68. Master, back then, my understanding of the power of light had always been lacking by a hair's breadth. This time, I had a stroke of luck in the Divine Cloud's secret realm and comprehended the Holy Light Tablet. My understanding of the power of light has increased by quite a bit. Perhaps that hair's breadth has been made up for. Xiao Sou's eyes were filled with anticipation and hope. Until now, she had not received any news that Bailey Hongzhuang was heading to the Holy Light Assembly. It was likely that Bailey Hongzhuang had not thought of this yet. Therefore, she had to settle everything before that. Only then would she be completely at ease. Hearing this, a light flashed in Tong Yunshu's eyes. Your understanding of the power of light has increased. As Xiao Se Wu's master, she naturally knew Xiao Se Wu's situation very well. At this level, it was not easy to increase one's understanding of the power of light. Back then, they had tried to make Xiao Sou the true saint of the Light Assembly. However, they had not succeeded because of that hair's breadth. If there was an increase now, they might actually succeed. Xiao Sou nodded seriously, yes, master. A smile appeared on Tong Yunshu's face. I knew that you were blessed by the heavens. The Holy Light Tablet is the rarest treasure of all. Since you've had the chance to see it, the position of the Saint of the Light Assembly is clearly yours. Seeing the admiration and joy on Tong Yunshu's face, Xiao Sou's eyes flickered. She did not mention that Bailey Hongzhuang had not only seen the Holy Light Tablet, she had even received the inheritance. She could not bring herself to say such things. However, Tong Yunshu did not notice this at all. She was completely immersed in Xiao Sou's good news. I'll look for the president later. We'll try again then. This time, I'll make you the saint of the Light Assembly. Thank you, master. Silly child, why are you being so courteous with your master? Tong Yunshu chuckled, having the saint of the Light Assembly as my disciple is my fortune. Xiao Yanlong heaved a sigh of relief. As long as they could get ahead of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it was not a big deal. However, the president just so happens to be at another branch. I'll send someone to inform him and ask him to return as soon as possible. All right. Xiao Yanlong nodded, his gaze deep and complicated. Vice President, I hope that all of this can be carried out as soon as possible. Don't worry. Tong Yunshu solemnly vowed. She put one hand on Xiao Sou's shoulder. So, your position is unshakable by others. You are destined to be the Holy Maiden of Light. As soon as he said this, Xiao Sou's face blossomed into a bright smile. Her heart that had been hanging for a while was finally put down. As long as she became the Holy Maiden of Light, no matter how outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang's talent was, it would be useless. Bailey family. For the past few days, Bailey Hongzhuang had been thinking about how to make the family stronger. With the family's inheritance, it was only a matter of time before the family's strength became stronger. However, this was obviously not something that could be completely strengthened in a short period of time. After all, they had to rely on the strength of the younger generation to improve. Only when the younger generation grew up to become the mainstay of the family, and a few powerhouses who could take charge of the family on their own would the family's influence increase. Of course, if it did, she would have to figure out the situation. Comparing the two, it was naturally more important for her to be with Beichen. The Saintess of the Light. Bai Li Fan's eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. However, he quickly understood. He also knew that Xiao Shou and Di Beichen had an engagement. It must be because of this that the master was so interested in the Saintess of the Light. Actually, I don't know much about the Saintess of the Light, Bai Li Fan said slowly. Chapter 5270. In other words, I'm afraid that not many people in the entire upper realm know enough about the Saint of Light. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. What do you mean? In fact, the upper realm has always been cultivating elemental energy and did not awaken elemental energy. The awakening of elemental energy only began a few hundred years ago. The most famous one is naturally the light energy. This was learned from an ancient book by the president of the Holy Light Assembly at that time. The ancient book talked about the Saint of Light, so this concept was born. At that time, the president of the Holy Light Assembly not only obtained the cultivation method of the light attribute, but also the Holy Stone of Light. It is said that only the real Saint of Light can make the Holy Stone of Light change. However, only the people of the Holy Light Assembly know what kind of change it is. The previous generation's Saint of Light had fallen a few hundred years ago. All these years, although the Holy Light Assembly's position has always been very high, they have not found a suitable Saint of Light for a long time. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She did not expect Bai Li Fan to know so much about the Saint of Light. Because there was a light attribute cultivator in our family before, and she had a good position in the Holy Light Assembly, so I know a little about her. As if seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's doubts, Bai Li Fan smiled and explained. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood, and a faint smile bloomed on her delicate jade-like face. Second Patriarch, have you ever heard that light elemental cultivators can't be together with dark elemental cultivators? Bai Li Fan frowned. I haven't heard of this, but because these two attributes are indeed diametrically opposite, everyone will have this idea. However, from what I know, the Holy Light Assembly does not have such a rigid requirement. Master, isn't this the relationship between you and young Master Di? As he spoke, Bai Li Fan seemed to have suddenly understood something and could not help but ask, Master, do you want to become the Saint of Light? If not for this idea, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have asked such a question. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I have some ideas. It's just that I haven't been in the upper realm for long, so there are many things I don't know. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang admit it so frankly, Bai Li Fan was even more surprised. It felt as if becoming the Saint of the Light was a very simple thing. As far as I know, Xiao Shou has long been recognized as the next Holy Maiden of Light. Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her expression was calm and indifferent, as if she didn't take this matter to heart. Bai Li Fan did not continue to elaborate. In his opinion, the family head was probably hostile towards Xiao Shou. However, such a situation was very normal. Now that the Xiao family and the Jun family had formed an alliance, they were their enemies. If they could really take away Xiao Sou's title as the Saint of Light, it would undoubtedly be very beneficial for them. Master, this is just some of the information I know. There are some notes in the library written by the senior in the family. You can go and take a look. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She did not expect such a pleasant surprise. Then I'll go and take a look. After leaving the house, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately went to the library. Chapter 5271. Master, you actually still want to become the Saint of Light, don't you? Xiao He followed by Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. As far as it was concerned, it also hoped that its master would become the Saint of Light. Perhaps this would not have much of an impact on them, but it was more than happy to see Xiao Sou upset. If there's no harm in it, I don't mind. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black phoenix-like eyes were filled with indifference. The corners of her lips curled into a faint smile. She had not forgotten Xiao Sou's mocking words. As a woman, she holds grudges as well, especially towards women who are coveting her man. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao He chuckled. It understood its master's temperament very well. Indeed, its guess was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully found the notebook. It had recorded many things about the Holy Light Assembly. After flipping through it one by one, she finally had a better understanding of the Holy Light Assembly. However, from the beginning to the end, she had not seen any mention of not being able to be with darkness-type cultivators. If this was an extremely important rule, logically speaking, it should have been there. Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought at the thought of this. Wife, what are you thinking about? Bailey Hongzhuang only regained her senses when Di Beichen's voice rang in her ears. Beichen, what are you doing here? Her fair and pretty face glowed brightly as Bailey Hongzhuang smiled at Di Beichen and closed the notebook in her hand. I went to look for you and heard that you were in the library, so I came to take a look. I found out from the second master at the Bailey family used to have a high-ranking member of the Light Society, so I came to the library to take a look at his notebook. What did you find? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and asked. I've flipped through the entire notebook. It doesn't say that the Saint of Light can't be together with a practitioner of the dark element. Di Beichen's eyes brightened. Isn't that a good thing? Since the Holy Light Assembly didn't make such a request, why did my master end up in such a situation? This was what she couldn't understand the most. In fact, she already had this doubt when she was in the ruins. It was just that her master didn't tell her. Di Beichen naturally understood the doubts in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. This does not make sense, but your master also said that we will understand sooner or later. She didn't tell us directly. It must be for our own good. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. He also understood that his master must have his reasons for not saying anything, but this feeling of being confused was actually not a good feeling. She hoped that they could understand it sooner, and she also hoped that they could have the ability to touch it sooner. Beichen, I have already talked to the second master. In the future, when my parents come to the upper realm, they will stay in the Bailey family. Her delicate face lit up with a bright smile. Previously, she had been a little worried about where her parents should stay if they came to the upper realm. Although they could stay in the D family, after all, it was not her place and there would be some restrictions. Now that she was the head of the Bailey family, it was natural for her parents to stay here. Naturally, there was no need to worry about anything. Chapter 5272. Actually, it's not a problem for father-in-law and mother-in-law to live in our family. Father and mother will definitely be very happy. Di Beichen gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang, his magnetic voice filled with sincerity. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. No matter if it's father or mother or grandfather or grandmother, they're all very nice people and definitely won't refuse. However, I feel that it's more appropriate for them to stay here. When they come, we'll ask for their opinion. How about it? All right. Di Beichen nodded. He also understood why Bailey Hongzhuang made such a decision. However, when the time comes, how will you explain the Bailey family's matter to father-in-law and the others? In the Bailey family, they could take out the inheritance and directly cover up this matter. However, they couldn't do the same to father-in-law and the others. After all, Wan Yunxiao and the others were very clear that Bailey Hongzhuang was their flesh and blood. It was impossible for her to be a descendant of the Bailey family. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with contemplation. Regarding this, she had been thinking about the most appropriate way to explain it. If it wasn't true enough, they wouldn't believe it. Why don't I say that I obtained this inheritance from a master? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Along the way, she also had several masters. Presumably, her father and the others wouldn't ask about it in detail. Di Beichen muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "That's not a bad idea. However, before we explain, we need to make sure that we're all correct." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I understand. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang selected several youths who were extremely interested in medicine and told them to follow her to the Di family to learn medicine. Regarding this, the youths were extremely happy. On one hand, it was because Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were already known to everyone. If they followed her, they would definitely be able to learn a lot. On the other hand, they also knew that Wu Weiming was in the Di family. Before Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, Wu Weiming's name was very well known. Previously, many of them were looking forward to learning medical skills from Wu Weiming. Now that two medical masters were here, how could there be such a good opportunity? After giving some instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left the Bailey family. However, on the way back, Bailey Yunyan also joined their group. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang became the head of the family, Di Xiaofeng naturally gained the approval of his future father-in-law. In fact, Bailey Yunyan's father had already approved of Di Xiaofeng. This kind of talented son-in-law was not easy to find, not to mention that he took care of his daughter so seriously. Of course, if it weren't for Bailey Hongzhuang, they wouldn't have let Bailey Yunyan go to the Di family with them. However, it was different now. As the head of the family, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally wouldn't let Bailey Yunyan suffer. What's more, with the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, Di Xiaofeng wouldn't bully Bailey Yunyan. Therefore, they were completely relieved. Standing in the group, Bailey Yunyan's face revealed a bit of joy and shyness. She didn't expect that she would be able to go to the Di family so soon. At the same time, she was happy and worried that she wouldn't be able to get the love of Di Xiaofeng's family. Seeing Bailey Yunyan come together, Di Xiaofeng was naturally very happy. Chapter 5273. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group returned to the Di family, the group was much larger than before. The young members of the Bailey family followed behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at the majestic and magnificent building of the Di family, their faces were filled with amazement. It really is a big family. This kind of background is not something our family can compare to. I never thought that we would have the chance to come here. We've really seen the world. Isn't this all thanks to the family head? But since we're here, we need to be careful. We can't lose face for the family head. The members of the Bailey family all nodded. They put away their curious looks and became serious and humble. Since they came with the family head, they represented the image of the Bailey family. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the discussions of the people behind her, and the corners of her lips slowly raised into a faint smile. Her family's children having such an awareness was undoubtedly excellent. Big brother, you should go see father first. Di Beichen slowly said, Hongzhuang and I will take everyone to Dr. Wu's residence and settle everything. No problem. Di Xiaofeng nodded. As the young master, Di Beichen could make his own decisions. But it would be good for him to inform his father first. When Wu Weiming saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had brought a group of people to his residence, he was also shocked and couldn't help but ask, Master, what are you doing? Ever since Wu Weiming said that Bailey Hongzhuang was his master in front of Chu Yingming, he had not changed the way he addressed her. In fact, he had learned a lot of medical knowledge from Bailey Hongzhuang that he didn't know before. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang also chose to accept it. During this time, Wu Weiming was pleasantly surprised to find that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually started to teach him medical knowledge. Previously, when he was treating the madam, Bailey Hongzhuang had also explained some things to him, but it was only in passing. Even so, he still felt that he had benefited a lot. After Bailey Hongzhuang began to deliberately teach him, the situation changed. Even though he had only been back for a short period of time, he had still learned a lot of valuable knowledge. Therefore, it was becoming more and more natural for him to call him master. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of smiles as she looked at the confused Wu Weiming. Dr. Wu, I found something for you to do today. Hearing this, Wu Weiming was even more surprised. However, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's smile, he vaguely felt that this was not a good job. However, Bailey Yunyan and the others did not have the time to think about this. They were completely shocked by how Wu Weiming addressed Bailey Hongzhuang. If they didn't hear wrong, did Wu Weiming call Bailey Hongzhuang master? How was this possible? Wu Weiming was a famous doctor. Unexpectedly, he called Bailey Hongzhuang master. Wasn't this news too shocking? Di Beichen noticed the expressions of Bailey Yunyan and the others and knew what they were thinking. It seemed that the news about the Chu family had not spread fast enough. There were still many people who didn't know. Master, just say it. Wu Weiming's expression was calm. If you want me to do something, I will definitely agree. With Bailey Hongzhuang's guidance, he had already regarded her as his master from the bottom of his heart. He would naturally do his best to fulfill his master's orders. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Actually, it's not a big deal. These are the young people of the Bailey family who are interested in learning medical knowledge. Chapter 52-74. Hearing this, Wu Weiming finally understood and turned his eyes to Bailey Yunyan and the others. So it's about this matter, no problem. He was originally worried that it would be something complicated, but teaching medicine was not a problem for him. What's more, he was not the only one teaching. However, the only thing he could not understand was why his master was so concerned about the Bailey family. Master, are you planning to help the Bailey family? Wu Weiming lowered his voice. As far as he knew, the Bailey family was a small family and did not have any relationship with the Di family. Could it be that Di Xiaofeng and the girl from the Bailey family were already set in stone? Looking at Wu Weiming's puzzled expression, Di Beichen suddenly said, Hongzhuang is not helping the Bailey family, she is helping herself. What do you mean? Wu Weiming was even more confused. Hongzhuang is now the head of the Bailey family. She originally planned to train a group of excellent doctors, but she can't stay in the Bailey family for long, so she brought them along. As Di Beichen's voice fell, Wu Weiming stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. This news was too difficult to digest. Di Beichen is telling the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, so I will have to ask for your help. Sometimes I will go out, and during that time I will need your guidance. No problem. Wu Weiming quickly said, this kind of thing, just leave it to me. He understood that his master was different from him. He had put all his energy into medicine, while his master had put more energy into cultivation. Therefore, he must have more time to train doctors than his master. Thank you very much. Bailey Hongzhuang's white and delicate face lit up with a happy smile. She looked deeply at Wu Weiming. Long before she came, she knew that Wu Weiming would agree. Speaking of which, the reason why Wu Weiming stayed in the D family was because of her. Therefore, she did not hide anything from Wu Weiming. If you respect me, I will respect you tenfold. This was also her principle. Master, you're treating me like an outsider. Wu Weiming smiled faintly. Does this count as grooming my junior brothers and sisters? Bailey Hongzhuang froze for a moment, then chuckled, that depends on what they call you. In the next moment, Wu Weiming's gaze quietly turned to the young man behind him. Seeing this, everyone called out in unison, Master. What a joke. Wu Weiming was a medical grandmaster. Many young doctors wanted to be his disciple but didn't have the chance. Now that Wu Weiming was willing to guide them, they were already flattered. How could they call Wu Weiming senior brother? She simply couldn't say it out loud. Seeing this, Wu Weiming glanced at everyone, then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, then you're now a grandmaster. Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect this situation. After she reacted, she felt that there was no problem. She immediately smiled and said, that's not bad. There were many empty rooms near Wu Weiming's residence. Di Beichen directly made the decision to let the Bailey family's cultivators move in. This place was close to Wu Weiming's residence. Usually, the family's disciples would not come here often. It was undoubtedly very convenient for them to live here. After everything was settled, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left. Chapter 52-75. Let's go take a look at Ling Xiao. I wonder how much his strength has improved since we left. Sheng Guanying chuckled. Alright, you guys go ahead. Di Beichen replied, we'll find you guys later. After everyone left, only Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Bailey Yunyan remained. Bailey Yunyan looked at the backs of Mo Yinjue and the others as they left. Her expression was complicated as she hesitated about what she should do. Patriarch, why don't I go to Dr. Wu's place first? Now that everyone had left, could it be that she had to follow them to see the D family's patriarch? This situation didn't seem to be appropriate, right? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other before saying, Yun Yan, it's fine if you come with us. You'll have to see him anyway. I'll go later. I just came back, it's really inappropriate. It's fine. No, I'll go back first. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to finish speaking, Bailey Yunyan had already run away. She originally thought that when Xiren and the others would go together, so she wanted to join in the fun. Who would have thought that the situation would turn out like this? Naturally, she didn't dare to. Looking at the rapidly departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. I wonder if Big Brother has told Father about this? Even if he hasn't said anything now, it'll be soon. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Let's go, we'll go take a look too. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng arrived, they saw that Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng's expressions were somewhat heavy. Their hearts couldn't help but sink. Could it be that something bad had happened recently? Father. Di Beichen walked closer. What happened? Beichen, you're here. A smile appeared on Di Yujue's face. I've just received 2 pieces of news today that are somewhat unfavorable for us. What news? Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan are engaged. Di Yujue's gaze fell on Di Beichen. He wanted to see his son's reaction, but he found that his son's expression was calm, and there was not the slightest ripple in his eyes. This is not unexpected. It's just that it happened a little faster than I thought. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was standing by the side, nodded her head silently. Back in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, she could already see the feelings between Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan. She had already predicted that the two of them would end up together in the future. It was just that the Immortal Cloud's secret realm had just ended not too long ago. Who would have thought that the two of them would be engaged so quickly? The Jun clan saw that we had roped in the Chu clan and felt threatened. That's why they hurriedly went to the Shao clan to propose marriage. Di Yujue's lips curled into a cold smile, his gaze cold and sinister. The Shao clan has made up their mind to go against us. Di Xiaofeng's expression darkened. Friendship was really nothing much. After so many years of being friends, they had become like this because of a disagreement. It really made one sigh. Other than this choice, they have no other choice. Moreover, Xiao Shou likes Jun Lingxuan. With how much Xiao Yanlong dotes on her, he will definitely agree to her proposal. Di Yujue placed one hand on the table, his fingers showing signs of exertion. Other than that, there's another piece of news. Xiao Shou is about to become the true holy maiden of the light world. The ceremony is set for next month. Chapter 5276. According to the situation in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, Xiao Shou's light attribute ability was clearly inferior to Bailey Hongzhuang's. He originally thought that Xiao Shou would have to put in a lot of effort to become the Saint of Light, but he didn't expect her to succeed so quickly. I also just found out about this news. No one knows the specifics, but the only thing that can be confirmed is that it's true. It said that Xiao Shou's master, the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly, Tong Yunshu, strongly suggested this. The president of the Holy Light Assembly even specially made a trip back. Not long after, the news spread. Di Yujue sighed. The Shao family and the Jun family had joined hands. This situation was already very bad. Once Xiao Shou became the Saint of Light, the impact would be even greater. Father, can you tell me what the relationship between the Jun family, the Shao family, and our family is? Di Xiaofeng suddenly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also looked at Di Yujue. They both felt that there must be some reason that they didn't understand. Logically speaking, although the two families joining hands would have a certain impact on them, it shouldn't be enough to make Di Yujue frown. Moreover, if the other side could join hands with other families, they could also do the same. Most importantly, they noticed that Di Yujue seemed to be particularly concerned about the Shao family. Seeing the confused expressions of Di Xiaofeng and the others, Di Yujue sighed and said, "There is indeed some relationship between our three families. We are all families with many years of history. After so many years, our relationship has always been quite close. The real reason for this is that our three families joined hands to protect a secret realm." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other in dismay. Only then did they understand. As expected, there was a relationship between them. Otherwise, the Jun family wouldn't have kept such a close eye on them. Moreover, the Jun family had been trying to get closer to the Shao family all these years. This was very strange. As a large family, there were many people that they could rope in, but they had always kept an eye on the Shao family. It was obvious that the reason wasn't simple. Actually, this is a long-standing inheritance of our Di family. Only people with the heavenly fate body have the opportunity to open it. This is also the reason why our family has always attached great importance to cultivators with the cursed physique. Di Yujue subconsciously glanced at Di Beichen before continuing. The Di family has always been so powerful because of the protection of our ancestors. Every time after the secret realm opened, the family's holy stones, thus will be filled talent and species. Apart from that, there was another condition to open the secret realm, and that was to inject their blood at the same time as the body of light cultivator from the Shao clan. Only when these two conditions is to the light to opens physique. D is SS's Long Xiao. Di Xiaofeng finally understood. All the questions and doubts he had before were answered at this moment. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a trace of contemplation and said, "Then what does this have to do with the Jun family? They clearly know that I have the cursed physique, yet they still tried to attack me. Don't they want to open this secret realm?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.